EA Sports just announced they have got a full week of rankings for us for the College Football 2025 video game. Tomorrow, we're going to get the rankings for the toughest places to play in the game. Now, that's going to be, again, tomorrow. We don't need to wait that long. I'm going to tell you right now who I believe are going to be the top 5 most difficult destinations to play the game in. First things first, though. Make sure to subscribe right here to the On3 YouTube channel. College football every single day. Heck, it feels like right now we're talking college football 25 almost every single day. So make sure you're dialed in. Want y'all a part of this. Don't miss a minute of it. Subscribe here. Also, follow me on the social channels at JD Piquel, Twitter or X, whatever you call it, and on Instagram, that same handle. So let me know what y'all think about this list. I'm just going to give you my top 5. And at number 5, I got Memorial Stadium for Clemson, and we have a little bit of bias here, okay? We were fortunate enough to go to Clemson for the game where they played Florida State, and they gave Florida State all they could handle and then some. I think if you were watching that game, you have a pretty fair case to say that maybe Clemson probably should have won that ball game. And I'll tell you what, we walked out there. It was a noon kick, and it was hot as can be. And so common sense would tell you maybe, just maybe, there's the potential for the crowd to be a little bit worn out, a little bit lethargic. It's an earlier kick, so they're not quite as into the swing of the day. That stadium was as loud as any I have ever been in. And we've been fortunate also to be at the Ohio State-Michigan game. We've been fortunate to be at some of these great SEC stadiums at night. Memorial Stadium, when Clemson was playing a noon kick, mind you, big game still, but it was a noon kick, they were getting absolutely after it. And to me, I think it has to be in the top 5 loudest environments on the game, one of the toughest places to play. For my money, Clemson, Memorial Stadium will be number 5. Now at number 4, this one kind of flies under the radar a little bit because it's not the biggest brand in college football, but Oklahoma State, man, Boone Pickens Stadium is just another planet, it feels like. And again, they don't get quite as much juice because it's not the largest brand in college football. It's not the largest stadium in college football. It only holds right around 54-ish thousand, maybe a little bit more. I have vivid memories as a college football fan watching Baylor, top 5 team at the time, in 2013, walk into that stadium with a potent offense. They were supposed to, I believe, be a team that was in that national title race during that season. Based on how they had played to that point in the year, it was November, they went in there and absolutely imploded. I mean, Boone Pickens Stadium, you also see the people with the paddles just banging the heck out of the side of the stadium, and it creates just this wild, I would have to believe, being on the field, this wild, distracting noise. It makes it really difficult, I think, in that stadium with that crowd at the defense's back to really get into a rhythm. Like, we see Oklahoma State have a pretty consistently awesome defense throughout the course of the last however many years. Some part of that is the Jimmies and the Joes. Do not misunderstand me. But I think a lot of that has to do with how they play at home with their crowd at their back. So for me, I think Oklahoma State and Boone Pickens Stadium has got to be a top 5 toughest environment to play in when it comes to college football 25, the video game. Now, these last 3 are a little bit difficult to dissect. At number 3, I'm going Oregon, Autzen Stadium. And similar to Boone Pickens, it's not the biggest. It's not going to have, 100,000-ish people in the stands. But that place is widely regarded as one of the loudest in college football. Their fans are as dialed in as it gets. There's no pro football team in Oregon. There's no NFL team. It is the Ducks. It is the Beavs. That is it. And so for the folks that are at those games on Saturdays, that is how they live and die when it comes to their football experience. And it shows by how they show up at the games when it comes to just attendance, and also when you can hear the broadcast and how intense they are. You have heard multiple people that have been in a variety of different environments, because I've personally never been to Autzen Stadium, would like to. It's on the bucket list. You have a lot of people from Lee Corso to Keith Jackson to other established broadcasters or journalists say, hey, there's a lot of great stadiums out there, but Autzen Stadium in Eugene, that is the loudest. So I think some people would put this stadium at number 1. If you do, I don't have anything against it, but for me, we'll put them at number 3 with, I think, some open-mindedness if you have them a little bit higher on this list. Now at number 2, I got Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. You may know it as the Swamp. And I think when we look at what teams are when they walk in there versus how they walk out of there, to me, from what I can tell, you don't go in the Swamp and walk out the same team. Like we have seen, it feels like multiple teams walk into a night game in Gainesville with that crowd at the back of that defense, propelling the offense, and like the opposing side just crumbles. They just crumble. It's a ton of pressure. The humidity is brutal. It feels like that's a stadium that's on top of you to a degree. I think this has to be one of the top two, if not the most difficult place to play in college football, and I think the game will reflect that. I also will say this too, they have one of the coolest fourth quarter traditions for my money when they play Won't Back Down with Tom Petty. Like when that gets going, get you some goosebumps. Have to imagine that rejuvenates the entire crowd, if not the Florida sideline in the close game. So Florida and the Swamp is at number 2. At number 1, I got LSU and Death Valley. And just to kind of put a disclaimer on this, Death Valley was known at one point in time as Death Valley because of how deafening that volume was from that home crowd. And the reason why I have them at number 1, because again, I've never been there, would love to go there, hope to get out there sooner rather than later, but they have a reputation that precedes themselves with that crowd out there in Baton Rouge. Like you hear people talk about their greatest college football game experiences in terms of attending as a fan, and people will name different venues and different games they've been to, and I'm sure they all stack up more than fine against some other games. But I think Death Valley at night, that phrase in itself, is consistently in a class of its own. You frequently hear people say, yeah, this game was great, but hey, go to Death Valley at night, go to LSU at night. LSU at night against Bama is really that one game you really hear about a lot. This is a spot that in Baton Rouge, in Louisiana, where, like, to me, just from what I understand about LSU and about Baton Rouge and about this stadium, it is its own planet. Like, it might as well be another country. Like, the way they emphasize football and everything leading up to that game at LSU, it's different. It's special. It's one of those things that, again, I hope to experience in real time, in person, and have only heard about it from great people that we're connected with here through LSU. But for me, I think Death Valley has to be the toughest place to play when it comes to college football 25, the video game. So to recap it, at number 5, I got Clemson, Memorial Stadium. Number 4, Oklahoma State, Boone Pickens Stadium. Number 3, I got Autzen Stadium for Oregon. Number 2, I got the Swamp. Could have them anywhere on there between those top 3, but I think I got that at probably that top 3 I feel good about. Florida at 2 with the Swamp, and then number 1, Death Valley and LSU as the toughest place to play in college football 2025. So we will see what the good folks over at EA Sports say when this whole rankings drops tomorrow. But I'm telling you right now, this to me, I believe, is the toughest places to play in college football, and this game is, I believe, aiming to be as realistic as possible. I believe that we will have at least 3, if not 4, of these venues on there when it comes to that top 5, providing for some margin. Honorable mention here, Penn State was very close to putting them in this top 5. To me, it's just you emphasize the whiteout as probably being that premier experience, and outside of the whiteout, I don't know that I would put Penn State in that top 5. So that's my list. We'll see what EA Sports says tomorrow. But let me know in the comment section. Let me know on Twitter, on Instagram, on social media, at JD Pickell, what you believe or where you believe are the top 5 stadiums, top 5 most difficult places to play in college football. We are live tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, full hour-long episode for y'all. Going to call our shot when it comes to SEC play. A couple of predictions for you in that space, but we cannot wait to see y'all there. Make sure you're subscribed so you do not miss it. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. Going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.